Okay, here we are. I've got Angela Castle with me now, who, for the benefit of our beauty network, we are going to call the AQTF champion of the world, just about. So, Angela, thank you so much for spending some time answering some questions in relation to the AQTF. I'm sure you're really aware that, just the word AQTF sometimes sends shivers down an RTO spine because, we're so driven often by that compliance that, you being able to talk to us about the AQTF and the changes that it's made and how we can work with it as an RTO and as a network is really beneficial. It's, you can't almost put a dollar value on just the sort of words that you're going to share with us today. So I'm going to ask you some questions in relation to the AQTF and just answer them as you can really, really well, because I know that you will. So what are the main changes initially, Angela, about the AQTF 2010 that you can sort of shed some light on for us?
Okay, the AQTF has really been strengthened. So when we talk about AQTF, we really should be referring to the Australian Quality Training Framework. And I know we use the acronym a lot, but if we think about the Australian Quality Training Framework, it is just a framework that we work within that guides us and helps support us to attain quality training and assessment.
Yep.
And therefore, hopefully, that'll reduce the fear for people.
Yep.
Some of the changes that have been brought about are governance under Condition 1.
Yep.
Fit and proper, persons that are fit and proper now to conduct an RTO.
Yep.
Business planning, there's some business planning and viability changes. So if you are proposing to be an RTO, you'll have to look at some revised business planning and financial viability.
Yep.
Planning also, that's been strengthened, and that's under Condition 5. A VETMIS has also changed slightly with the VETMIS compliant data, and there will be a unique student identifier under Condition 6. Now this identifier won't be brought in until early 2011.
Okay.
But again, keeping up to date with our website and the changes will be important.
Absolutely.
Add to that, elements 2.1 and 3.1 also aim to ensure client needs and rights are established and the RTO fulfils the commitments of all client agreements. Okay. So reviewing your client agreements is quite important.
Yep. Okay. And how do you see these changes impacting on a training organisation?
I think that the changes will assist in strengthening both the business and the quality training and assessment.
Yep.
And that'll be good for all RTOs. So engaging with the changes positively, there's not a lot of changes, but it'll give you a chance to review and reflect on what you're currently doing, and that'll always build in continuous improvement.
Can you sort of share some words of wisdom now for an RTO preparing to meet the requirements of an audit in accordance with the Australian Quality Training Framework 2010? I'll try and use the big long words now. So what sort of words of wisdom could you sort of share about going about meeting those requirements of an audit nowadays?
I think, firstly, to be aware of what the changes or the revisions are in the revised AQTF. But you can do that by looking at conducting an internal audit. Now, they have a lot of publications available to help you do that. One of the main publications in there is the User's Guide, and if you are an existing RTO, you would use the User's Guide to the essential conditions and standards for continuing registration.
Right.
If you're not yet an RTO, then there's a User's Guide for initial registration as well.
Okay.
Becoming familiar, it's a bit like, I call it the Bible, if you like. If you're wanting to know anything about the AQTF, then the information's contained in that booklet. And having been on a recent initial audit, the auditors take a lot of guidance from that booklet, and so if you work through and you look at the elements within each standard as well as the conditions, and you look at the key actions, areas of intent, there's a whole lot of subheadings within each element, and be guided by those words and sentences. Some will say must, some will say could or should, but think about, do you do those sorts of things in your RTO? If so, how do you do them? Who does them? how often, how do you reflect on them and continuously improve on them. So using the user guide, I think, is the number one thing. To add to that, the AQTF now has a self-assessment checklist for initial applicants. This checklist can also be used by existing RTOs, and they can use that in conjunction with the user's guide. There's also a range of different audit techniques. So whether you're conducting an external audit or an internal audit, you can use the AQTF audit handbook, and they have a number of holistic approaches within that handbook that look at how you might go about conducting an internal audit. So whether it be from marketing to awarding a credential, for continuous improvement approaches, or looking at your training and assessment strategies. The audit handbook details each one of these approaches, and what I like the best is that it has a set of questions to start you off, so you can actually review those questions and start asking them within your RTO. Planning for an audit, whether it be internal or external, is probably the most critical area, and as you're doing the assessment for learning principles and looking at those today, I've just run an audit workshop recently, and I've used those assessment for learning principles to look at conducting an internal or external audit and applying the picture of competence and getting feedback and self and peer assessment.
Through that preparation of audit sort of time, I think, who can support my RTO throughout this sort of process? Is there anyone that I can turn to for advice or further information?
Okay. All right. There's a range of areas for advice and information. Okay, so support can be always found on our website.
Yep.
Our website is www.training-sa.gov.au, and if you can go to our website at any time, and you'll find information on audits, on professional development, on training packages, on a whole range of AQTF areas. The Quality and Tertiary Education Policy Directorate provides a range of support services for clients by phone and also via email. The Client Information Services team provides support and advice to both prospective training providers in their preparation to become an RTO and also to existing RTOs. We also have my own team, the Education and Training Support team, and they provide educational leadership and capability building through our workshops, forums and individualised services to RTOs so we can build the AQTF capabilities.